So, preliminary practices. We're talking about waking up in the morning with the opportunity to turn our minds immediately to what we're cultivating on this path, the beauty, the qualities of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. So these preliminary practices, Venerable asks us, she suggests that we start our morning with them before we do anything else. You know, for a while there, I was having coffee before I started my practice. Right now I'm thinking, you know, before I do, Joe had suggested that, actually mentioned this, that before he even has his cup of coffee, he's doing his practice. And I really think that's beautiful. And it shows where you put the priority. So it's something that you can do immediately upon arising to set the intention for the day. And at the end of the day, to reflect and see how you did that day. You know, some of the things that were discussed at the ordination, and some of the things that I've been asked to reflect on are rules and rules of behavior, and also reflecting on how you did with, so there's rules, and then there's the personal standards that we have based on the qualities of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And there's different ways to reflect on these things and to have the aspiration and intention to walk them out every day. In the Theravada lineage, there are certain Pali chants that you do. There are confessions that you do at the new moon and that you do at the full moon. There are confessions that you do each night. But there are also many, many other ways that you can do that in a way that's very personal. One of the ones that we'll talk about today is Vajrasattva. That's just another opportunity to reflect on, how did I do today? And how can I maybe course correct if I didn't meet my own standard? So we'll talk about that a little bit. That was included in the preliminary practice document. Venerable talked about how all of these things, the preliminary practices, the reflections that we do, support the 4 right efforts or 4 right exertions. Is anybody familiar with the 4 right efforts? They are one of the 4 of the 37 factors for enlightenment. And they're pretty simple, but actually could be very complex also. But they are, just to read it exactly, the case where a monk or anyone generates desire, endeavors, arouses persistence, upholds and exerts his intent. Number 1, for the sake of the non-arising of evil or unskillful qualities that have not yet arisen. So you're trying to anticipate anything that may come up that has not yet arisen. And not even go there. For the sake of abandoning of unskillful qualities that have arisen. So you're in the middle of something. How can I slough that off and turn my mind? For the sake of the arising of skillful qualities that have not yet arisen, so turning your mind to it and actually arousing that effort or that mind state. And then for the maintenance, non-confusion, increase, plenitude, development, and culmination of skillful qualities that have arisen. So those are the 4 right efforts, and those are the ways that these preliminary practices support us in those 4 right efforts. And those 4 right efforts are basically the foundation of cultivation. They're what we're doing every day, all day, with our body, speech, and mind. And one of the most important things is just mindfulness, continuously mindfulness of everything that is going on with ourselves in our minds, and having the opportunity to shift. So setting the intention first thing in the morning gives us an advantage. So when we do this preliminary practice, it can take very short time, Venerable says. It can take a short time, maybe 15 minutes, or it can take, as long as you want to sit in meditation following the initial preliminary practices. She says it's a wonderful practice. It sets the stage for meditation. and it's a strong bridge to the mind that can naturally enter meditative states. So these things help us calm, reflect. Our minds can be very busy thinking about everything in the world that we think is real and important. So this helps us to kind of connect with what is real and calm the mind so that we can sit quietly. And then in that state of stillness of meditation, true wisdom can arise. So a lot of today, we'll be going through this, we'll be actually doing this practice. We'll be doing this practice together. But before we did, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the elements of it. In particular, Vajrasattva, because I don't think we've spent a lot of time talking about Vajrasattva as a group, have we? No. Okay. I will tell you all about it. So you've definitely chanted the Vajrasattva mantra. And just chanting the mantra is wonderful, but there's way more to it than that. So does anybody familiar with who Vajrasattva is? So he's an emanation or a manifestation of Vajradhara, who is the primordial Buddha, the Adi Buddha, the Dharmakaya Buddha, of which His Holiness Dorji Chang Buddha III is the third incarnation of, is known as the third incarnation of. So he's an emanation of Vajradhara, so that's very special. And all pervasive without differentiation, he's often described as a dark blue Buddha, but really he is emptiness. He is everything, the Dharmakaya. The name Vajrasattva means diamond or thunder being, which I love because it's talking about cutting through, dissolving, purifying. We're talking about recognizing the things in ourselves that we're finding are binding or untrue, or that we're struggling with, or some of the hindrances that we have. Recognizing them and then dissolving them into light. And then with the dissolution of those things, we become our pure essence. That is all not us. So this practice helps us dissolve the false and enter the true. It's the mantra itself is one of the best known of the Tibetan purification practices. And one of the other things about it is when you're saying it, you're not just saying it, there's a visualization that goes with it. So it's activating your body, speech, and mind. We talk about the importance of aligning the three karmas, body, speech, and mind, to really, really empower the practice. This allows you to do that because we'll talk a little bit about the visualization. And then there's some reflections that you're doing while you're reciting it. And of course, this may be a lot to try to do initially when you're first learning it. But once you learn the mantra by heart, you can engage with the visualization and the reflection even of the things that you're noticing that you could have done better that day. All that can happen during the course of chanting the mantra. So Vajrasattva is visualized as a white being of pure light. And he's sitting on a white lotus with a moon disk. A lot of these deities are. You can see these Green Tara and Sarvana Varana Vishkambim over here, sitting on lotuses with moon disks. So it's like a flat moon. And he's bright and white, and he's holding a bell in one hand and a vajra in the other hand. And he is beaming with white light, and that white light is pouring into you through your crown chakra when you're chanting the mantra. And through the light entering your crown chakra and going through your body, all of the negativities, the hindrances, the unwholesome acts, they are all being either absorbed into the pure light or just kind of flushed through. You can visualize it in different ways, but Vajrasattva is taking that on for you. So I initially was kind of drawn to this mantra. I think I have an affinity with Vajrasattva. I looked it up and learned it before I got a transmission from Master Zazi, and I learned it in Sanskrit. And Venerable likes the way I chant it in Sanskrit. I don't know if it's exactly the right pronunciation, but I'm going to share it with you right now. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manipalaya Vajrasattva Venapatishta Dridam Abhawa Satosham Abhawa Saposham Abhawa Naraktam Abhawa Sarvasiddham Me Priyacha Sarva Karma Suchame Chidam Shriya Kuruham Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajra Mami Muncha Vajra Bhawa Mahasamaya Sattva Ahum Pe. I'll share with you what those words mean as well. So Om Vajrasattva, I'm going to just share with you a good bit of English translation so you know what the mantra itself means. And then the one that we chant most often is in Chinese, which we'll do together, and that's the one in our preliminary practice document. And that's just beautiful. It's the bright mantra, and it sounds bright when you chant it. So Om Vajrasattva means the most excellent exclamation of praise, the qualities of Buddha's holy body, speech, and mind, all that is precious and auspicious. Vajrasattva, you whose wisdom is inseparable bliss, emptiness. Samaya Anupalaya means, and whose pledge must not be transgressed. Lead me along the path you took to enlightenment. I won't go through I'll just share with you the full translation without going through each word by word. Make me abide close to your holy Vajra mind. Please grant me a firm and stable realization of the ultimate nature of phenomena. Please grant me the blessing of being extremely pleased and satisfied with me. Bless me with the nature of well-developed great bliss. Bless me with the nature of love that leads me to your state. Love that. Please grant me all powerful attainments. Please grant me all virtuous actions and your glorious qualities. Hum, that word hum in that mantra is the seed syllable of the Vajra holy mind, the heart essence and seed syllable of Vajrasattva. And then the ha 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 ho is seed syllables of the four immeasurables, the four empowerments, the four joys, the four kayas, and the five wisdoms. You who are the Vajra of all who have destroyed every obscuration, of all who have attained all realizations, of all who have passed beyond suffering, and of all who have realized emptiness and know things just as they are. Do not abandon me. Grant me the nature of indestructible union, the realization of your Vajra nature. You, the great pledge being with the holy Vajra mind. Make me one with you. Syllable of uniting, is the syllable of uniting and non-duality. Hum is the syllable of the wisdom of great bliss. And then Pei, I looked that up, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's spelled P-H-A-T. It's the syllable that clarifies the wisdom of inseparable bliss, emptiness, and destroys the dualistic mind that obstructs realization. That's a beautiful mantra. And again, bringing together the visualization of this great being who also represents our pure nature and the mind of all the Buddhas. It's all one. We are it. So being able to have your body, speech, and mind in alignment is very powerful. While you're chanting it, it's also important that they call, it's talked about having four opponent powers. And you could think of them as the four R's: regret, reliance, remedy, and resolve. So again, once you get familiar with this, you can kind of keep these things in mind. But regret is just really just recalling the negative actions and seeing them. And is very different than, and this is something that I'm learning myself, very different than guilt, because guilt has a big old I and a me, and it's getting mad at yourself for having the misdeed or the unwholesome act. Regret is just seeing it and saying, I see this, and I know how I want, the direction I want to go, and I resolve to do it, which brings us to the next one, which is, well, not the next one, but one of them is resolve, undertaking to refrain from creating negative karma or negative acts in the future. You're saying, I see this, I'd rather not do it anymore. I know that cause and effect is a real thing, and if I change my actions, the results will also change. Reliance is just taking remedy in the three jewels and the teachings of the Dharma and the teachings of the Buddha. So you're really just, that's our foundation. You know, you can have an intention to do good, but if you don't know, if there's not a roadmap laid out, then it's a little confusing. It can be a little bit, you can see that with a lot of people who are looking to do good, but they don't know quite what that is. So sometimes they're even relying on their ordinary minds, and that can be very, very, that can be a difficult path. So in this, unfortunately, with the Dharma, we have the map, and so we can return and rely on the map. And then remedy is the mantra and the visualization itself, but it's also all of the other activities and of cultivation that we do every day. So just keeping those things in mind. So it's quite a lot, you know. It's not just chanting a mantra. It's a powerful practice that is a beautiful practice that we have the opportunity to engage in our preliminary practices. It's great to do in the morning, but it's also a wonderful way to end the day, you know, reflecting on your day. And so before we get into the meditation and the practice today, I want to just check in with everybody, see what you've been noticing in your own practices, any questions that you have about what I just shared, anything that you would like to bring forth on your own reflections.
Share that I have so much trouble with pronunciation that I find in pranayama much more helpful for me to before meditation. And I know it's just, I've always had a learning disability with it, and even there's been improvement, but I still get caught up in the not doing it right. So pranayama, I breathe right.
You know, there's those stories, there's multiple stories in the Dharma about someone getting the wrong mantra and doing it wholeheartedly and having very, very effective results, and then finding out it was the wrong mantra and then it all falls apart. You know, it's really the essence, the spirit, the heart that you bring to it. Also, there's lots of accommodations. You could listen to it. We're actually going to be making a recording of, I can't remember if Vajrasattva is in it, but we can also always make recordings available for anybody that wants them.
Both of them will be recorded.
Oh, okay.
So the Sanskrit and then
Oh, that's right. So next week, we're going to be working on a recording of chants and songs that we're going to make available to everybody. And Kadar just reminded me that we will have both the Sanskrit and the Chinese version of this particular one. Go ahead. There are microphones around too if people want to use them.
I have a microphone. We like it. Okay.
When we went to California and we received the preliminary practice from Zazi, there was no, because we do we do Vajrasattva 3 times before going into our Yidam or whatever our other practices. And she said just to focus on the words. And so I kind of I haven't been doing any visualization with Vajrasattva. So I don't know. Is it recommended to do a visualization or just to focus on the words? And also, when you talk about reflecting when chanting, how does that work when you're trying to focus on the words and trying to be with the words? I feel like I'd be reflecting, visualizing, and chanting all at the same time. So is that correct?
It's something that over time with my familiarity with the mantra, I've been able to do, but I think that it doesn't really matter. You're setting aside the time. You can think about some things beforehand, then chant the mantra, reflect. I mean, if you're setting the space with that intention of reflection and the 4 R's, remedy, resolve. As far as visualization, I think it makes it more powerful. Again, you're aligning your 3 karmas. And this is also one of the preliminary practices that is recommended to do 100,000 times. So if you can, there is the shorter one, but this is the 100-syllable one. If you can, do more than a few. It gives you the time to deeply reflect and so, I mean, it depends how many I do each day. It just depends. But I think that it's good practice to do many. I have a little wrist mala that I'll use sometimes to do the 21 times. Yeah, I'll see.
Yeah, we'll just keep it in.
So the Om Benza Sattva Hung is the short version of it, and I usually do it with my malas. My mala beads 108 times, and rapidly. The rapid prayer or mantra has it spin into an actual vibration with the light coming from Vajrasattva. So it's like I didn't realize that I used to do them slowly, and then I got a recommendation that, like, why is it taking you so long to do that? And then I saw others that have been practicing Vajrasattva or other mantras for that matter. And it's the very rapid movement of the beads and twirling the beads as when it's saying that Om Vajrasattva Hum, that takes it kind of into, that whole stream of light that comes from Vajrasattva.
That's wonderful, and that's another thing that might be helpful is that the shorter mantra is just as good. So you can do that, and then
it's the same.
It's just a shorter version of the mantra.
It just condenses it.
It's a fair question.
I mean, if you can, it's great to do the whole one, but the shorter one is also legit. And I think Venerable has said also that the same thing about chanting more quickly does generate some energy and power. And I've also chanted kind of slowly at times, and I think that's true. Speeding it up does increase the energy and the power of it. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions and comments. The first question is, what do you understand the Vajra mind to be? Because I feel like I've been really trying to understand and refine my understanding between how the words like Chitta, Vajanya, if we're going to understand that the 7th consciousness is where all of this is sort of being, it's the sort of governor that if it's set to the wrong setting, any information that is coming through all of the consciousness below it is being interpreted as I. Like, I think the comment that you made about not folding our reflections into some trance of unworthiness story is really profound, and to understand when and where in the spectrum we're really able to shift the mind in seeing, am I folding this into an I, or am I really looking at the dust that has accumulated in my karma and seeing what I can do to brush that out, which is unwholesome, which takes me further into avidya.
Mhm.
You know, so I know that was a lot, but my first question is like, in the Vajrasattva practice, you know, like how do you really hold what the essence and the meaning of that word Vajra is? Because it's used in like a thousand different contexts in 1,000 different places.
Mm. First of all, I think about when I'm practicing this, I guess now that I'm dissecting it a little bit, I think of it probably from a relative and absolute a little bit. So you have to have the relative me to reflect on my transgressions as
Right.
well. But then you're also with the non-dual, pure essence of our true nature, which is one with Vajrasattva. So it's kind of both. And I think about with the Vajra, the pure power of our true being.
And the ability to kind of cut through whatever obscuration is impeding the arising, is impeding the spontaneous and natural arising that as Buddha Master talks about, you know.
Mhm.
To sort of comment on what Kadara said, Venerable, I feel like, has pointed this to us, but in the way that she doesn't always gives us the answer. We have to kind of find it on our own from the inside out. And I think there is sometimes a place where part of the power of these mantras and these practices is so that they almost take a life on in themselves, and they're holding the ability to look at things from a deeper mind while they themselves are running. You know,
I think that's a good point, and actually that makes me want to just revisit what she said about mantras. She said the word mantra comes from a meaning which protects the mind. Let's see what she said that I want to share. The sound is not only a seal, but an activator. When transmitted by Vajra Master, the gateway to the Master's realization is passed down to you. The vibration of awakened ones in the 10 directions, who all have one mind, becomes accessible to support your resonance with that prajna, thus enabling you to also have the Bodhi mind manifest and stabilize. Then, in tandem with correct cultivation, you will have the same competencies and attainments. Pretty cool.
just that.
Yeah, just that.
My last question was, if, like, according to my research and understanding, like, Vajrasattva is almost like a complete practice in and of itself. And like, if you're going to do that before the Yidam practice, it's like you have to visualize the light coming in. There's a splitting in the ground where the dark karma is coming out of you. Like it's a lot, you know. And I'm just wondering how much of that you suggest, and then also that Venerable suggests, because that's something I've been wrestling with too. Like, how much of its own practice am I putting of that before these other practices?
I'm not sure I could answer that one. I think it's probably more of a personal, an individual, maybe determination based on the conditions at the time, based on what you're working on, based on what your teacher recommends. I found that it's an essential part of my daily practice. It's like I said, however, the number of repetitions varies though. But also it's like not even necessarily the formal practice of it, but just bringing that awareness, mindfulness, attention throughout the day. I mean, all of these things are helping to infuse our minds, not just during the actual doing, but all the time. So it's just helping us create more attention to ourselves, and so that we can shift and adjust to the standard that we want to hold, that we actually want to walk. Any other comments or thoughts? Bill rode up on his bike right before we came to Dharma today, so
Hey,
it was perfect timing.
there it is.
Here he is. It's wonderful.
Mileage plus.
So I'd like to do a little practice. I passed out some of these, and Joe, if you could, do you have the document to post on the screen? Actually, it's an attachment in the Learn Worlds platform, so anyone online can just open the attachment and follow along.
Attachment is called short preliminary practice.
Yes, the attachment is called Short Preliminary Practices. So I know we've done this together before, the mantra for the 8 offerings. Someone online had asked about that, having a specific training on that. And we may be able to do that or have one-on-one set up with Venerable if people need that. Om Morgang Badang Bube Dube Warlake Gen De Lawe De Shab Tasadi Sahong Soha. And it's good to offer the 8 offerings 3 times, at least. There's different mantras, there's different offerings for the mandala. The one that I do says, Om Banzar Bhumi Ahang. So you're visualizing a ground of gold. Om Banzar Reiki Ahang, picturing mountains, strong iron mountains surrounding a hum symbol. Mount Sumeru, the 4 continents, its sun and its moon constitute the universe. I offer all treasures in the universe to the Buddhas. All of the merit that I thereby earn, I share with all living beings so that they may realize enlightenment. I and other living beings offer all of our physical actions, speech, thoughts, wealth, and good fortune, and our past, present, and future lifetimes, and wonderful treasures to the Master, the Yidam, and the 3 jewels. May they compassionately accept these offerings and thereby empower us. You can use a mandala set like these, or you can hold a mudra. Together. Namo Di San She Do Ji Chang Bo Nam Di San She Do Ji Chang Bo Nam Di San She Do Ji Chang Bo Nam She Shan Quan Shui Sa Nam Quan Shui Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhasa. To the Buddha I return and rely, vowing that all living beings profoundly understand the great way and bring forth the Bodhi mind. To the Dharma I return and rely, vowing that all living beings deeply enter the sutra and have wisdom like the sea. To the Sangha I return and rely, vowing that all living beings apply love and compassion to all. May all living beings always be peaceful and happy and maintain the causes of peace and happiness. May all living beings always be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all living beings always be free from suffering, and my own heart be delighted about this. May all living beings stay far away from greed and anger and abide in non-differentiating generosity. Through the virtues we collect by giving and other perfections, may I become May I become the virtues of May I become I vow to cut off all evil within me. There will be no evil that I will not cut off. I vow to practice all types of goodness. There will be no type of goodness that I will not practice. I vow to save all living beings. There will be no living being that I will not save. Om Banzai Dare Hong Hong. Om Banzai Dare Hong Hong. Banzai Dare Hong Hong. Om 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 Banzai Dare Om Banzai Dare Om Banzai Om Banzai Dare Om Om Banzai Dare Om Om Banzai Dare Om Banzai Om Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manidanaya Vajrasattva Devaparicha Shisha Me Bhava Sudakayu Me Bhava Subhakayu Me Bhava Madhuveda Me Bhava Savasuri Jaya Cha Savakama Sisame Sijang Sijang Kurma ha 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 Bhagavan Savajata Gata Panchama Vimusa Pancha Bhava Mahasamaya Sarvaham Doshi Chandara Chache. We'll just go ahead and sit from there. I'll do the dedication of merit just a minute. I just wanted to check in. Anybody had anything they wanted to share? One thing that I've learned is that I'm the kind of person that likes to know how to do things. So I will, a lot of my energy has been typically has been applied in the way that I've always done things in the world. And this isn't necessarily the same. We can't apply the same things that we've always done in our worldly way to this. So, it's easy to get caught in the what, how, am I doing it right? That actually trying to do it correct, I found gets you farther from the truth. So, one of the things that I love about these Vajra practices, in particular in the Vajrasattva that we're talking about today, is that it gets you past that ordinary mind and helps you absorb into the mind of a Buddha. And so you're kind of losing yourself in the mind of the Buddha. You don't have to get into reason and rationality. You can just you can let go some of that. So I found that that's very helpful for me, but I think in general. We'll do the dedication of merit. May the merit accumulated from this practice benefit all beings equally. May all beings increase their fortune and wisdom, and may they always have peace and auspiciousness.